Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Simply Trade Roundup with me, Annik. You should know me by now, but if you don't, I've been doing the podcast for a while now, the Roundups, and I have a little bit of a different category now, which is called Careers, where I interview different people on how they got where they are, what their journey was. And today is a very special one, and I've been meaning to do this one. Before we get into it, today is the 27th, which is my favorite number, as you guys know. And yesterday, you guys, I always mention this. Taylor Swift got engaged. I think Lalo's going to make fun of me for putting this in. But, everyone needs to know this, and I have to bring it up. And maybe Cindy Allen will have a little bit on it Friday. And we all know she's the Taylor Swift of trade. But she's not the star of the show today because I have a whole nother star, which she truly is. I have Amy Morgan here with me today, a highly respected force in the global trade and supply chain industry. Especially by me once I got to know of her and researched her a little bit more and got to meet her. I was a little fangirl. Amy is a vice president of trade compliance at Altana Technologies, an AI company who we've interviewed a few people from. We've had the CEO and we had Peter on. Awesome people. She's also known for her innovative approach, leadership, and commitment to advancing compliance solutions for governments and businesses alike. Also, you've worked with multiple companies, you know, Microsoft, Amazon, Avalera, and now Altana, of course. So she has been celebrated as a top innovator and is a mentor and advocate for women in trade and technology. And I am so happy to introduce you to our audience, Amy Morgan. Thank you so much for being here.
Anna, that's a great intro.
Thank you so for well, I already said this, but thank you so much for being here. I know you have a crazy schedule probably. There's so much going on in the trade industry and you're doing so much. I mean, I kind of want to get into that real quick. You got into the trade nerd. So you have like your whole little community called trade nerds, right? You have hats,
Yes.
you have pins. I see people with pins. I don't have one. I don't have a hat either. But I'm gonna get one the next conference I see you. I will steal one. So
Yes.
you've kind of created yourself this little community that you meet up with people. You do so much. What made you want to do that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've been wanting to do the Trade Nerds community thing for a while. But it was really this moment that we're in right now where there's so much chaos and so much uncertainty. And it hit me that everyone is a trade nerd now, right? They're the all of us that have been doing this work all of our careers. We've been trade nerds. We used to joke and call ourselves trade nerds and all these things. But now, because of tariffs and because of the need to understand our products and their origins and the impact they have on our business, the CEO of our company has to be a trade nerd, the CFO, the logistics folks, the product designers, the marketers, the salespeople, everyone needs to be a trade nerd. So, this community is really my way of trying to expand our network
Yeah.
beyond just those OG folks. And this is how we're going to start doing that. I really believe that in these moments of chaos, we can use them as catalysts for progress, and our industry really needs that. So I believe in this community and I'm excited and I can definitely hook you up with some trade swag, no
Please.
problem.
Please. Okay, I want to go back to kind of your early days because in trade, they say you don't end up in trade by choice. You kind of end up, just randomly in this industry. So let's go back to your early days. When you were a kid, what did you want to do? Or what was Amy like? Because I'm not sure if she was a trade nerd exactly.
Oh, well, I don't know. I'll let you be the judge. Early days. Wow. Okay. So I grew up in Seattle in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm talking like old school Seattle, right? Before Amazon took over, Seattle was still a big port city. Everything was about shipping and Boeing and innovation. So trade really wasn't an abstract concept. It was just kind of part of our local fabric. But I'm not
Okay.
saying like that's why or how I got into it. I mean, I was a curious kid. So, super into puzzles, like jigsaw puzzles, and I still am. I was really into understanding the why behind things, like where did things come from? What was their origin story? I mean, I took Latin in high school just to understand where words came from, so
Wow. Okay.
I did
Okay.
I was always a joiner. I was always in the like, I had to be in the mix, right? All the clubs, whether it was cheerleading or band or yearbook editor or leadership. And not really because anyone pushed me, but because no one pushed me, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't grow up in a household that was always talking about college or a career. So I really just carved my own path and I joined everything and I did everything and I got involved. And that was how I built momentum. That's how I proved to myself that, like, I could shape my own future. And I think to bring it back into trade, it was that early grit, that taking initiative and asking questions and pushing through, no's that really stuck with me. I mean, I had to learn the balance between respecting structure and then finding creative ways to achieve a goal. And to me, that's actually what trade compliance is all about, right? Like it's full of
Yeah.
all these rules, but it requires mastery and knowledge as well as like creativity to solve the hard stuff. So I don't know. Take from that what you will, but
Yeah. No, I love what you're saying now, and I feel like it reflects the person you are now because you're doing the same thing, kind of, you're finding yourself around, you're curious. So when you were young, you were going through life, you're curious, whatever. And then you go to high school, you go to college. When did you decide that trade was the career for you?
oh my gosh. So to answer that question, I sort of need to give you
Go
my
ahead.
story, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you know how you say that Cindy Allen is like the Taylor Swift of
Yeah.
trade?
Yes.
Um, I was thinking about that and I'm like, I guess I might joke that I'm the Forrest Gump of trade compliance. I mean, somehow I've ended up in the middle of all of the biggest trade moments of the last 25 years. I mean, right place, right time, right curiosity. So if I go back, I suppose my interest in trade really started in college. Uh, there was this moment in the mid 90s that was all about globalization. And like I said, Seattle was a bigger port then. NAFTA
Mhm.
had just been passed. The WTO's Seattle round it was in the headlines here in the Pacific Northwest, and I felt like the world was all converging right in my backyard, and I had to be a part of it. Right? Remember, I just have to be in the mix of things.
Yeah.
So I created a job for myself at the World Trade Center Seattle. I interned for what is now considered that infamous WTO Seattle host committee. That was the group that put on that 1999 ministerial.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then later I interned for the Port of Seattle and I became super obsessed with how things moved, how things were connected, how man made rules could shape something as innate as trade. And that curiosity turned into a calling. So from there, I simply chased the action. So if you look at my resume, right, I joined Nordstrom in the early 2000s. I was an EDI analyst, like super nerdy. And that was when retailers were just starting to scale their supply chain technologies. But then 9/11 happened and compliance and
Oh,
security
yeah.
priority, right?
Yeah.
So I found myself at this really crazy intersection of technology and trade and regulations. And that moment was when I realized how much trade was the connective tissue of our economy, our politics, our culture, our daily life, right? So I felt so connected to the world that I just leaned all like I went all in on trade
Yeah.
compliance, never looked back. And so to finish like that Forrest Gump story, it was around that time where China entered the WTO, global sourcing exploded. And there was this demand for low cost, high volume imports. So US retailers, they were expanding into new markets and categories. And I joined Costco Wholesale uh, around that moment. So here you've got big box retail going global, and I had this front row seat. So then you go to 2010, I joined Amazon just as cross-border e-commerce was taking off, and now today at Altana, I'm using AI to solve some of these wild, thorny trade issues, tariffs and forced labor and geopolitical issues. And it's crazy because that whole path, like, got me to this moment. This is the
Yeah.
most meaningful and ambitious work I've ever done, and it feels so exciting to be in this role at this time. And in a lot of ways, Anik, I feel like I'm still just getting started.
Oh, I love to hear that because I think as when you're young and you're starting out, you're like, okay, first of all, you don't even know where you're going. Where is this leading to? How am I getting somewhere? You want to be so successful. How do I get somewhere like that? And then, the path can change and it's hard to even change paths because you're like, wait, I'm so comfortable here. What do I do to get out, or what do I do to move up, or what do you do? And I think that's the hardest part. And knowing that you're saying um that you're barely getting started while you've done already so much, which is perfect, right? Which you should, because then it never gets boring. And trade is not boring. Clearly, it's not. I mean, at the moment, it's not. I know you're a licensed customs broker.
Mhm.
How did you, when did you decide you want to look at that really big book and say, yeah, I want to take a test on this?
I don't
Because
know
I've
if
seen the book.
anybody
It's
I don't know if
insane.
anybody actually just wakes up and just like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this." I think so. Remember when I said that it was that moment, I was at Nordstrom just
Yeah.
after 11, and I was experiencing that the retail, the trade, the regulations, the security, all these things were had come together, and, of course, I wanted to be in the mix, right? And I joined the customs compliance department at Nordstrom, and all my peers were licensed customs brokers. So it was never really a question. It was just something like, "Oh, of course, like,
Yeah, you
naturally,
have
I'm
to do it.
going to do this thing." And it was one of the hardest things. Like, there's really nothing that truly prepares you for that test. It was never really a question. It was just, of course. It was just something I was
Well,
gonna do.
obviously, you also wanted to get ahead, right? And I actually do have a question on the Nordstrom part. Did you choose Nordstrom because I know you're a little bit into fashion? Do I that
Right.
that I have gotten correct, right? Okay. Is that what you chose Nordstrom, or was that just a job that, opened up and you're like, "Yeah, I'll take it."
Oh, yeah, there was I mean, back then, fa yes, fashion has become somewhat of a hobby of mine,
Mhm.
but back then, no, no, I was right out of school, I didn't have any money, Nordstrom is a great Seattle company, they were hiring, and I was just trying to get a foothold in the trade business somehow, right?
Yeah.
So, for no Nordstrom was just an opportunity.
Okay. So we're talking about your path right now, and everything seems butterflies and beautiful, and you worked yourself up, and then now you have this amazing job and you're doing fantastic in the industry. What were some of the challenges you went through? Because I know it's not all butterflies and you're just getting from job to job and everyone loves you and whatever. What are some of the challenges that you encountered, early on, especially, entering the trade world as a woman? I don't know if that was a, a challenge for you, but what was the overall kind of the stereotypes, I guess?
Well, I think I'll answer the question, but I usually don't lead with gender when I talk about my story, uh, because the thinking is that I want the work to lead. I want people to see, the gumption, my moxie, the ideas, my execution, my impact, because that is what got me here. But there were times I was the youngest in the room. Like, I started right out of school. I was an intern even before that. So I'm no stranger to being the youngest in the room. There were moments I was the only woman, especially back in my Port of Seattle days and in early technology. Uh, but early in my career, I was young. I was passionate, always been passionate. I was sometimes labeled too much or too direct, too ambitious, too intense. But instead of, like, giving in to those stereotypes. I channeled my energy into trying to be excellent. I wanted to ask the best questions. I wanted to make myself indispensable. And I've been really lucky. I've had spectacular mentors who've had my back, who taught me how to carry myself in rooms where maybe nobody looked like me, or how to hold the line or have a backbone when maybe I wasn't taken seriously, how to stand up for myself when I was being talked over or interrupted. And now that I've earned a seat at that table and 25 years of work under my belt, I use this my privilege to make more space, right? I try so hard to be the kind of leader that I needed, especially for other women. I want them to know, I want you to know, I want everyone to know that you can be bold and you can be intense, you can be curious, you can be funny, just showing up as you are and still thrive in your professional life. So I don't know if I answered all of your
No, you
questions.
answered it
Being blunt.
really well. I think those feelings are so valid, and I've definitely had those feelings before, and I'm sure I'll have many more of those feelings because starting out is hard, right? And being in this industry, yeah, I like how you said you don't want to lead with gender because I agree with that. I I align that you are just as great as anyone in the room, right? You should always know that, whether you are a man, a woman, whatever. So that answer was perfect, and it kind of I feel like the people listening, and we do have a lot of people that are successful listening and they're already up in their careers, but there's also a lot of people that are starting off. And if people are starting off and they can listen to this and they feel like they're too much or they don't really know that people respect them in the way they should, just to keep going and to just do your best, and that's all you can do, and it'll get you places. And from there, you've kind of went from different, I mean, no, it's the same industry, but you went from Nordstrom to Amazon. I don't know if this is the right correct lineup, to Costco, and then AI. There's such different levels of in the industry. How did you navigate that? Because you're not jumping from Nordstrom to Amazon and you're doing the same thing.
Well, so yes and no, right? So when I started, I went. You're right. You had it mostly right. Right, Nordstrom to Costco to Amazon, and so on. It was intentional, but in at the time, that was just. I think it was more of my ambition talking. It wasn't like I was intentionally trying to place myself at these strategic companies in these moments. It was more like, wow, Nordstrom was an amazing experience and a great company, but I was ready for more, right? I wanted more than at the time we were only focused on North America, and I wanted more than that. So I go to Costco, and Costco's huge, and I had all the different types of products. I was in all different types of geographies. I was importing and exporting. And then I was ready for more than that. And you go to Amazon, and at that time, Amazon was just, they weren't what they are today. They were still going global in a lot of ways. So I got the world. And I just kept wanting more and wanting to learn more and wanting to learn more. So the way I navigated was really based on my own curiosity. I was just ready to move on. And I'm never one to be satisfied with complacency, So, when I get comfortable, it's time to go. And that was really what was behind my early choices. And then I got into technology and, well, it's hard to get complacent, right now in anything, but, uh,
Yeah.
that was the idea.
I was gonna say tech now you're at Altana, which is huge. You guys do a lot of government work. You work with a lot of companies. Um, how was it starting there? How was the transition? I'm sure it stimulated you in different ways. Like you can grow now to places that you haven't gone before that, right?
Oh, I don't know, I joke, and I'm not and I maybe it's not a joke, I am serious. I think this is it, right? This is the
Yeah.
one. This is the thing I've been looking for all my career, and when Altana came along, I mean, I've gotta take you back. It was 2020. COVID had just started. There were all kinds of things going on in the world. Trade felt like it was sort of falling apart. There was a supply chain crisis and there was geopolitical instability and this global pandemic. And when Altana came along, I hadn't really thought about AI, right? I didn't see AI in my professional cards, and I really wasn't looking for another trade related role. But when I met the founders, I was amazed. I was amazed that people that didn't come necessarily from trade had this vision and the brilliance, and these ideas that it could actually be possible to use the latest technologies to make trade a vehicle for good in the world. I mean, it was a very romantic idea, or at least in my head, it was like with better data, would companies actually make better decisions? Would they make better choices for compliance, for the planet, for humanity, for their own companies? And today, I have to believe that that's true, and it's why I believe so hard in what we're doing. But it was easy when I got inside the company and I started to understand uh, the power of AI. Like AI wasn't something that artificial intelligence wasn't, it's just not a term I that was really in my vocabulary as a trade practitioner, but it didn't take me long, right, to realize that instead of reacting to problems at the border, what if we could use technology to see things we couldn't see before so that we could get ahead of all of our non-compliance? We could actually design better processes, and
Yeah.
that's what drew me into it. I mean, I don't some people ask like, "Why are you trying to automate trade activity?" Right? Like, it's not that at all. It's actually the exact opposite. It's about giving this industry the respect and the tools that it's always deserved to rise up and
I love
really
that.
elevate the role of the compliance professional. That is what I believe in. That's what I'm doing here.
It's because it's such a traditional industry, it seems. Like, people see it as this, oh, it's been this way. Why, we're doing it this way. Why do we need an AI? Or the AI is just gonna disrupt us. It's gonna falsify our outcome or whatever. And when I talked to Peter about that, he had such good answers too. In what way? I mean, it was kind of inspiring because it's weird. You don't talk about putting inspiring and trade in the same sentence is kind of odd, but there's so much inspiring to come with technology, I think. What you can do in the industry as in moving forward, like having it more transparent, creating kind of a safer space, resilient and a sustainable supply chains. And I feel like there's a little bit of more emphasis on that. Before, they didn't seem to care that much about it.
When you say they, do you mean like companies
I
or
I say the industry in general. Like I feel like no one focused on it, but I don't know. Maybe that's just my perspective. Peter said something globalization. I think one, and then globalization two, and there's phases to it. I think there's COVID happened. 9/11 was like a big indicator, right? You said too, and then COVID happened, and I think that's what spiked kind of a lot of these changes. And now looking into the future, that there is a place for trade to have, a safer space and a more resilient space and again, sustainable, hopefully.
even bigger than that, right? I mean, this is an opportunity to use technology to take the trade intelligence that we all as trade practitioners have in our brains and democratize that across our companies so that we can take our trade intelligence and help every single function of our companies make better choices,
Yeah.
right? And so this is where trade compliance rises above compliance and starts becoming trade strategy. I wrote a whole blog post about this because I think that's the future of this space, right? Compliance, like the word compliance makes you think of something that's retroactive, like making sure something I did was done right. How
Yeah,
about making sure that something we do is
that's
done
right.
correct from the very,
Mhm.
very start? And now you're using your powers, your compliance powers, if you will, for good. And you don't
Yeah,
have to be cleaning up messes all the time. You can be using that your knowledge and your intelligence and the things you know to be more strategic. That is where I think we're going, and that is what I believe, um, technology can help us achieve.
I agree with you, and I love that. I wanna kinda circle back because 'cause we're gonna wrap it up. We're at 27 minutes right now. I looked up and it was 27. My brain is just looking for those numbers. Um, Looking back, so what is some advice you would give your younger self? You've been at the place where you're like, "I know this is what I'm meant to do. I'm inspired, and I'm still growing." But early on, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, wow. I knew you were gonna ask this question. Well, and okay, so I think first I would just tell my younger self that she doesn't have to choose between passion and success, that it is actually possible to have both. And then I would thank her for trusting her instincts and for saying yes before she felt ready, for chasing curiosity over certainty, right? I would thank her for seeking out those mentors and allies, and then for learning how to be that person for others. And then finally, I think I would teach her not to shrink. I mean, I'd let her know that she can be both credible and authentic and to not be afraid to take up space. That's when I was growing up, that was something like, "Oh, women, right? You have to, conform to the professional
Yeah,
environment," right? Um, but I would tell her no. I'd tell her not to do that. Lean into your curiosity and continue to be creative, and all of those things that you thought were quirks will actually open doors for you. And if I'm being really honest with you, I have to remind myself to do that even today. Like,
mhm.
not to shrink when you're in a room that's dominated by men or when you are being interrupted or talked over. It's easy just to kind of hang back and
Yeah,
make your small. And I have to remind myself, no, you know, I deserve to be here. I have a voice and I'm not afraid to take up that space. So
I love
I don't know.
that.
I guess that's what I would say.
No, that's a great answer. It's inspiring me right now. This is a great way to start my morning. And then, okay, so the industry is kind of insane right now. And I don't know if you feel that or, what it is, but what keeps you sane? Like whether it's working out or, eating, making food or what's something funny. I don't know. That's what I would choose. But like, what do you do to stay sane?
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So I am super fortunate to have really awesome people in my life. My husband, he's my best friend. He's the person that inspires me to try to be a better version of myself every day. I've got great friends. They all love me. No matter how crazy I am or how much I want to talk about trade or tariffs with them. Um,
Oh God. Yeah.
and then out but aside from that, right,
Yeah.
you said you like to eat and do all these things. Well, I'm always hacking my health somehow.
No, that's
There's
me.
not a
That's what
fitness,
I'm talking about. Yes.
right?
Yes.
There's not a fitness or health trend that I have not tried. Like, you can find me on my Peloton, you can, find me in my Legree classes. Like, I don't know, something you don't know about me is that I am a certified Legree fitness instructor. It's kind of like Pilates' really intense, really painful cousin, that just helps take my mind off of the things that are going on in the world. Because if you're working out, you can't really think about all of those
Right.
other things. Um, I also travel a lot. You said I'm everywhere, I am everywhere. Um, I'm always moving. I've been living this bi-coastal lifestyle the last 6 years, right, which has been an interesting experience. So, I've got a lot going on that keeps me, I don't know if it keeps me sane, but it definitely removes me from the day to day, so that I can continue to show up, fresh and
Yeah,
motivated.
I love that. No, that all sounds very wholesome and just what you need. what you need to stay sane. Well, maybe. I mean, you didn't say martini. That would have been in mine too.
Well, there was a time, but not so much these days.
um, and what's next for you? Is there any goal that I don't know, maybe you don't want to mention this because this is maybe personal, but is there any goal you would like to achieve, or is there anything this year that you're like, oh, this is still what I have to do, or this is something that I need to hit?
Yeah, well, there are a few things, right? Like, first of all, just helping everyone navigate this moment. I know that sounds like a very politically correct, diplomatic answer, but it is really true.
True.
I
Hmm.
feel a sense of obligation to help this community through this moment. So definitely there's, just still a lot of work to educate the community on the power that some of these new technologies do bring. So that's really important to me. Um, but personally, I've started writing a book, and that is becoming, real, so that's really exciting. Uh, I'm moving. I just sold my house 2 days ago, so I'll be moving to a new place.
Oh my
Um,
god.
I like I said, I always have a million things going on.
Well,
Uh
that's fantastic. So you have a little bit of, when you're doing your own life rather than the trade life, you can kind of disconnect and you have other things going on. But yeah, it sounds very much, well, I'm barely starting, this is barely my start in the industry, but I feel like it's a great route to go. I mean, this industry is kind of insane. And when I see people up there like you, it's very inspiring. I've been loving to see how people are reacting, how people are changing, how people are making efforts to try their best to, overcome these challenges. I think without that, I would probably be bored. So
It is fascinating. I mean,
there's
this is
that.
a really remarkable moment if you can remove
Yeah.
yourself from the day to day. It's a really remarkable time to be in this space, and the reason you're feeling so inspired is because there's so much opportunity. There's
Yeah.
so much room to innovate, and what I said earlier about the trade nerds community, right? The idea that we can use these moments of chaos as
Yeah.
catalysts for progress, I believe that. And so rather than dwell on how frustrating these times are, how challenging it is, and why don't we think, okay, fine, this is the reality. We need to survive this moment, but how do I come out better? Right?
Yeah. What do we
That's
do?
inspiring. You can't help but see the opportunity in that.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree
so
much. And Amy, I had such a great conversation with you. Truly, I
okay.
did. And I've been excited for this moment. I can't wait for people to listen to this, to get inspired for anyone, people that may already know you, but that may not know this. People that heard of you just a little bit, they'll get to know you more. And people that are barely starting out, which I think that's the most inspiring to them because it is a kind of an intimidating industry, if I have to say. But if you make your way through, I mean, you can get places. Clearly, you're the living example. So, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, we'll see each other at conferences and whatnot. And I love to go to New York. That's like my favorite place in the world. But um, so, thank you so much again, and I wish you the best on your journey. And I know you'll hit all your goals. I know you will.
Thanks, Annik. This was fun.
Thank you.